Have you ever stood at the edge of sleep, that peculiar twilight, and wondered if what we call reality might just be a thin film stretched over deeper, stranger things? What if your thoughts really do ripple out into the universe, nudging the world in mysterious ways? Today, I want to invite you into a quiet but radical conversation, not one of dogma or doctrine, but of questions that have lingered since humanity first looked up at the stars and wondered, am I more than flesh and memory? Let's begin with a simple yet profound challenge. Much of what we take as reality is shaped by our beliefs, habits, and the hypnotic hum of modern life. We are taught to see ourselves as isolated individuals, riding an endless current of causes and effects, driven by things outside of our control. But is this the only way to see things? Or is it possible that we are active participants in a much grander story? Across ancient philosophies, from the temples of Egypt to the wisdom schools of Greece and the silent practices of the East, there is a surprising consensus. The world we experience is not just material, but mental, an echo of mind and spirit. Quantum science, meanwhile, offers us paradoxes, electrons that seem to exist in two places at once until measured, or particles entangled across impossible distances, suggesting that separation is, in some ways, an illusion. But what does this mean on Monday morning, when the alarm rings and you are tangled in worry about relationships, money, or finding purpose? The ancient Hermetic teachings offer a place to start. They tell us the universe itself is mind, and we are not mere witnesses, but co-creators of experience. Your thoughts matter, not just in the private theater of your skull, but in the subtle architecture of reality itself. Now, if this feels heavy, let's begin with a gentle practice. Right now, wherever you are, pause and notice the quality of your thoughts. Does your inner voice hum with uncertainty and fear, or is there a core of steady assurance there? Take 3 deep breaths. Feel how your state, perhaps in micro moments, colors everything you perceive. This small act of noticing is not trivial, it is a doorway. The root of all transformation begins with attention. You see, every challenge you face, be it loneliness, setbacks, or those sticky old habits, contains, hidden within, an invitation to reshape your relationship with the world by reshaping your relationship with your own consciousness. The first practical step is simple awareness. Are you living life on autopilot, or can you begin to reclaim a deeper sense of presence? Here's the paradox. The more you try to grasp control, the more reality seems to slip through your fingers. But when you soften your gaze and approach each moment with curiosity, the world responds in unexpected ways. There are countless stories, old and new, of people who, by changing how they see themselves, changed the world around them. Science hasn't caught up to all the mysteries here, but as Dr. Joe Dispenza's research explores, there is mounting evidence that aligning our heart and mind genuinely changes our physiology and possibly our circumstances as well. So tonight, as you prepare for sleep, I invite you to experiment. Ask yourself, what if my thoughts really do touch the fabric of reality? What kind of world do I wish to weave? Spend 5 quiet minutes before bed focusing on a feeling, gratitude, love, or simple peacefulness. See what shifts in your mood, your sleep, or even the sequence of events that greets you tomorrow. This is not magic, nor mere wishful thinking. It's the beginning of learning to see through the veil. We're just starting our journey together, and much lies ahead. Ideas about higher dimensions, the hidden patterns in chaos, and how ancient wisdom intersects with cutting-edge science. For now, let me leave you with this challenge. In the coming days, how might your experience shift if you treated every thought as a brushstroke on the canvas of your life? Are you ready to explore, gently and curiously, where this awareness might lead? The secret language of vibration. Can you recall a day when the atmosphere around you felt alive? A friend's laughter seemed to lighten your entire mood, or conversely, a stranger's anger lingered long after they'd left the room. Startling, isn't it, how invisible forces shape the quality of our experiences? Today, let's pull back the curtain on the law of vibration, a principle that quietly organizes the music of our lives, sometimes as background noise, sometimes as a powerful crescendo. This journey isn't about memorizing mysterious laws for the sake of sounding wise. It's about awakening to the patterns that have always responded to the energy you carry. What if, beneath thoughts and emotions, everything in existence is simply energy in motion? Science already hints at this. Physicists discovered that even the densest stone or steel is, at a deeper level, mostly empty space, with particles spinning and vibrating at unimaginable speeds. And in quantum labs, matter shapeshifts, sometimes acting like particles, sometimes like waves, reminding us that solidity, form, and even separation are only temporary stories energy tells. But this isn't just a lesson in physics. Our ancestors, from Hermetic philosophers to Eastern sages, held that our mind and spirit radiate frequencies as real as any radio wave. If you could see what you were truly broadcasting, what would your signature song be? Harmony, discord, or something in between? Here's where challenge and possibility meet head-on. Much of your daily vibration is inherited. You absorb it from childhood conditioning, cultural beliefs, even yesterday's news headline. It's in the way your body tenses just before an argument, or how your heart races with hope on the first day of a dream job. Most people float on this river without a paddle, bobbing from one emotional current to the next. The result? Life can feel random, as if external events dictate your inner weather. But sometimes you meet someone, a person who radiates steadiness, lifts up every room they enter, almost as if they're enveloped in their own microclimate. They haven't escaped the world's turbulence, but have become skilled at managing their inner energy. You sense the difference immediately. So what's their secret? The Hermetic principle of vibration tells us that mastery begins with choice. You're not just a receiver, but a transmitter. You can consciously raise or lower your set point by tending to your inner state. Let's be honest, most of us don't wake up in a perfectly tuned mood each morning. The universe, if left unchecked, will hand us a cocktail of yesterday's habits and tomorrow's worry. The small act of noticing your emotional baseline each day, just as you might notice a song stuck in your head, gives you back the steering wheel. Here's a practice to try in the next few hours. Choose a simple, small action that soothes or uplifts you. Perhaps listening to a song that brings back a happy memory, stepping barefoot onto grass, or offering someone a sincere compliment. Observe the subtle change in the energy you project and the way the world seems to answer back. Can you feel the difference, however tiny, in the way reality ripples outward from your present state? Old habits may resist. Negativity echoes strongly, demanding your attention. Remember, the law of vibration isn't defeated by brute force, but by a gentle and persistent shift of focus. If fear or anger visit, welcome them for a moment, then gently turn your spotlight to courage, patience, or gratitude. As Hermetic philosophy and modern psychology both affirm, what you focus on grows. And here's the twist: what appears outside you, the mood of the world, often reflects your most persistent inner frequencies. Even quantum theory, with its notion of the observer effect, hints at this mirroring. The world is more malleable than you think, and your experience of it starts inside. So, if you feel stuck in a loop, a chronic tension, a recurring disappointment, ask yourself, what subtle vibration am I feeding? Would I choose this station if I knew I had the remote? With practice, you'll discover that your inner tuning fork can call forth new harmonies in the outer world. Tonight or tomorrow, set an intention to check in. What vibration am I sending now? No need to fix everything at once. Curiosity, more than self-criticism, is the key. Each small shift is the birth of a new melody. Let's keep exploring together in the next part, where we'll visit the rule of polarity and the lost art of mental alchemy. Until then, I'll leave you with a question. If your heart had a frequency right now, what would it sound like? And what song would you choose for the day ahead? The Dance of Opposites, Mastering Polarity. Do you ever notice how life seems to swing between happiness and gloom, confidence and doubt, hope and frustration? It's easy to feel tugged back and forth like a pendulum with a mind of its own. What if this endless dance between opposites could become a secret path, not just to stability, but to inner transformation? Let's face it, we all ride the highs and lows. One day you wake up full of optimism, certain the world is in your favor. The next morning brings worries, or perhaps an old insecurity resurfaces, coloring everything gray. Why does life feel so polarized? And is there a way to become steady without shutting down your emotions? Ancient Hermetic teachings give us a candid answer through the principle of polarity. Everything in existence, they say, has two poles: hot and cold, light and dark, love and fear. These are not separate realities, but different degrees along a single spectrum. The Hermetic texts compare this to a line: left and right, rich and poor, even peace and chaos are just points on a sliding scale. Modern psychology echoes something similar. Cognitive behavioral therapy, for example, shows us that despair and hope aren't separate battles. They are flavors of the same emotional current, shaped by the stories we choose to tell ourselves. Neuroscientists see it in brain chemistry. Shifting your attention changes your mood, imbuing old problems with a different hue. So, ancient wisdom and modern science both ask, what if the secret isn't erasing negativity, but learning how to change your relationship to the whole spectrum? Here's where both challenge and opportunity arise. Most of us try to fight or suppress the emotions we don't want. We scold ourselves for feeling fear, resentment, or envy. We wish these feelings away. But as Hermetic wisdom explains, attempting to banish one pole often strengthens it. To defeat darkness, bring light. To diminish fear, cultivate courage. Each negative exists only by contrast with its positive twin. This principle, called mental transmutation by Hermeticists, is more than simple positivity. It's an active art, the power to shift by gentle will and focus your position along any spectrum. If anger rises, acknowledge it. Then consciously move your attention to patience or understanding. You're not ignoring your emotions, you're using them as stepping stones, honoring their message, but choosing where you wish to stand. Let's bring this home. Imagine a disagreement with a loved one. The old habit is to bristle at their words, meet sharpness with sharpness, polarize further into your corner. But if, instead, you pause and search for understanding or compassion, you change the energy in the room. The spectrum shifts, both of you soften, new solutions emerge. This is mental alchemy in action, transforming lead into gold, not by denying lead exists, but by discovering the higher resonance concealed within every challenge. Practical steps begin with observation. Over the next day, notice when you are stuck at one end of a feeling or thought. In that moment, gently ask, what is the opposite pole? What small step could move me toward it? Don't force yourself to leap from despair to joy. Instead, nudge yourself from despair to acceptance, then possibly from acceptance to quiet hope. With each gentle shift, you reclaim the power to choose, using the full spectrum of life as a palette for growth. Science, too, suggests this subtle recalibration makes a difference. Studies show that flexible thinkers, those able to recognize and move between opposing emotions, experience more resilience, creativity, and even robust physical health. The world outside cannot always be controlled, but mastery begins inside. I invite you this week to try an experiment inspired by this principle. The next time a strong, uncomfortable emotion appears, do three things: welcome it, name it, and then invite its opposite to share space in your awareness. Watch how even a little acceptance begins to alter the entire experience. You are not condemned to drift on life's swings. You can become the pendulum's master, not by rigidity, but by learning, little by little, to direct the motion with conscious intent. With time, the storms within become seas you can navigate, not just endure. So we arrive at a timeless riddle. Can you recognize that joy and sadness, gain and loss are not final destinations, but movements in the same grand dance? What if every emotion you feel, however dark, contains, somewhere within it, the seed of its opposite? Tonight, as you reflect, ask yourself, what energies have I been feeding today? What hidden opposite in my feelings or thoughts could I gently bring forward? And how might that small shift begin to change my life? Riding the cosmic wave, the principle of rhythm. Have you ever noticed how fortune seems to ebb and flow? How your mood, your creativity, even the quality of your relationships sometimes follows a hidden wave? Maybe, after a string of good days, a slump appears out of nowhere. Or perhaps you find yourself pulled back into old patterns just when you thought you'd outgrown them. It's frustrating, isn't it? You take 2 steps forward, then life nudges you 1 step back. But what if it's not random at all? What if, beneath the texture of your experiences, a deep and natural rhythm is always in motion? Ancient Hermetic philosophy calls this the principle of rhythm, a kind of cosmic law that says everything moves in measured cycles. Day and night, the tides and the seasons, birth and death, even the quiet breathing in your chest, all these are expressions of the same universal movement. Nothing in nature truly stands still. This is more than poetic observation. It's a fundamental pattern reflected everywhere, from the heartbeat of the individual to the vast cycles of planets and galaxies. Science has begun to recognize this as well. Biorhythms map emotional and physical highs and lows. Markets move through booms and busts. Even your brain waves oscillate through phases of activity and rest. It's as though, on every level, existence trances out a dance that often feels beyond our tends to set in. When the pendulum swings toward difficulty, anxiety, confusion, setbacks, the instinct is to resist, to blame ourselves, or to struggle against the downward arc. The voice of the inner critic may flare up. Why am I back here again? Haven't I learned this lesson? Shouldn't I be above this by now? If this sounds familiar, know that you're not alone. But there is another way to navigate these cycles, not by brute resistance, but by understanding and working with rhythm, like a surfer learning to ride the waves rather than fight the ocean. Hermetic philosophy offers us a bold perspective. The swing to a negative pole is temporary. Those who recognize the rhythm and choose where to stand may ride out the low points without losing balance. The key word here is choose. The lower self reacts. The higher self observes. So how does this work, practically speaking? The Hermeticist applies what is called the law of neutralization. They become aware of the swinging motion, of moods, fortunes, anxieties, and deliberately adopt a higher, observing stance. Rather than identifying with every up and down, they remember this too is part of a grander rhythm. It is possible to find a quiet center, to hold steady even as the tide rises and falls. Try this. The next time you sense an emotional downswing, boredom, anger, fatigue, pause. Ask yourself, what if this feeling isn't a personal failure, but simply the pendulum in motion? Instead of judging yourself, witness the feeling as you might observe a sunset or a passing storm. What changes if you choose patience over panic during the downturn? Slowly, you create a gap between stimulus and response, and in that gap, freedom is born. The great wisdom traditions recognize that the cycles of life are not meant to punish, but to teach. Just as every winter gives way to spring, every personal setback can prepare ground for new growth, if we allow it. By accepting the rhythm, you meet your lows with compassion and your highs with gratitude and humility. Eventually, you may even sense a subtle choice to level up from the lower swings, keeping your consciousness anchored in a steadier place even as the world shifts below. Science points to people who weather stress and change with remarkable resilience. These are often the ones who neither deny the swing nor become lost in it. They acknowledge the low, care for themselves gently, and remember that every cycle turns, carrying them onward. In this, presence and perspective become your allies. Tonight, take a quiet moment and review the waves you've ridden in recent weeks. Where did you resist the downward swing, and what happened? When did you lean into the rhythm with acceptance? How did that feel? This growing self-knowledge makes you a surfer, not a shipwreck. We're only midway on our exploration. Soon, we'll enter the realm of cause and effect, and discuss how synchronicity is not simply accident, but mystery and meaning interwoven. For now, I encourage you. Meet your inner rhythm with patience. Meet your cycles with awareness, and you'll discover a peaceful ground beneath the shifting tides. So let's sit with this question. How might your life change if you stopped resisting the lows and began to trust the rhythm itself? When a new cycle swings in, will you greet it as a setback or as a signal to grow, deepen, and return again to your center? What might the cosmic dance reveal if you choose to move with it rather than against it? The web of causality, synchronicity, and the seeds we sow. Have you ever had a moment when a chance conversation, an unexpected delay, or even a fleeting thought seemed to set in motion a surprising series of events? Perhaps it felt like the universe was conspiring in your favor, or, at other times, teaching you a lesson you didn't know you needed. What if there's no such thing as a true accident, and every experience, however small, is sewn into a vast, invisible tapestry of cause and effect? Let's pause with a simple question. What truly causes your life's turning points? Is it just luck, hard work, or something far more mysterious? Some inner force drawing outer circumstances into formation? For millennia, seekers, mystics, and philosophers have described a law underlying all events, the Hermetic Principle of cause and effect. It states, every cause has its effect, every effect has its cause. The world is not random, but ordered, woven with countless threads of action, thought, and intention. Like a garden, your present circumstances are the sprouting seeds of choices made in earlier days, or even moments of unconscious feeling or belief. From a scientific viewpoint, this is echoed in complexity theory, where a minor change, a butterfly flapping its wings, alters the course of storms halfway across the world. On a more personal level, Carl Jung's idea of synchronicity describes the meaningful coincidence, when what happens outside perfectly mirrors our inner state. What does this mean for our daily struggles? It means feeling stuck or blessed is not simply the effect of forces beyond your reach. Every thought, every word, every gesture, a moment of kindness, a flash of resentment, even the longings you barely dare to admit, sets causes into motion, visible or hidden. Most of us live surrounded by causes we barely remember setting in motion. Old habits from our upbringing, beliefs inherited from family or culture, untended wounds forming patterns that color our adult lives. Once you see this, a new challenge arises. It's tempting to feel weighed down by a sense of blame or guilt. If I caused all this, does that mean I'm at fault for every misfortune? But the wisdom traditions urge a gentler approach. The past is not a prison, it is a classroom. Nothing you did before needs to define you, unless you insist on reliving it. It takes humility to accept that we may have planted unwise seeds, but it also brings freedom. With awareness, you become a conscious sower of new causes. Let's turn this into practice. If you notice an unwanted pattern, perhaps repeated conflict, or a stubborn feeling of lack, pause. Reflect, not with criticism, but with sincere curiosity. What inner state may have seeded this situation? Is there a thought or wound, a memory or belief that continues to echo out into your actions and choices? Even asking this question is a doorway. Start small. Today, choose a single area of your life and commit to planting deliberate seeds. If you crave deeper connection, offer a genuine smile or word of appreciation to someone you meet. If you wish for abundance, cultivate gratitude for what already exists. If you long for forgiveness, begin by extending a silent blessing to the one who wronged you, even if only for a second. Each action, each shifted inner state quietly ripples out, changing the currents of future effects. Research on the brain's neuroplasticity supports this. Every fresh, intentional act lays new pathways, slowly rewriting the story you tell yourself and the way you relate to the world. You are not bound by yesterday's momentum. Every moment holds the power to set a new cause and, in time, a new effect. But what if life brings you events that seem vastly out of proportion to anything you consciously intended? Here, the Hermetic path counsels patience and perspective. Not all causes begin with you. Some are woven through the vast web of ancestry, culture, even collective memory. Sometimes, events ask us to break generational patterns or to offer the one thing that can stop the wheel: forgiveness. There is no way to control life completely. Attempting this only deepens suffering. Yet, you can become a conscious participant in the dance of causality. Instead of blaming luck or fate, you take back your power by becoming ever more aware of what you sow. This is not perfectionism, but an open-hearted willingness to learn and choose. As a living experiment, spend the next few days looking for moments of synchronicity, unexpected alignments, helpful strangers, meaningful coincidences. Rather than dismiss them, let them remind you the world is more responsive and more mysterious than we usually imagine. Life is not pure chance, but interactive poetry. Tonight, before sleep, reflect gently. What seeds have I been planting with my actions, thoughts, and intentions? What effect do I wish to see blossoming tomorrow or in the weeks ahead? If every event is connected, what one conscious cause can I set in motion right now, no matter how small? We've now traced the path from mind and vibration to polarity and rhythm and into the mysterious web of causation and synchronicity. In the next part, we will peer into the mystical principle of gender and why the union of inner opposites, not just male and female, but active and receptive forces, creates new realities. For now, here's an invitation. What new cause will you plant today, and how will you nurture it with care and attention? The union of forces, gender, creation, and the power of care. Have you ever wondered why some dreams flame briefly and fade, while others seem to gather strength as if the very world itself stirs to support them? What mysterious spark determines whether your intentions blossom into reality or fall into forgetfulness, lost among competing wishes and distractions? Perhaps, until now, you believed willpower alone was the deciding force, or that positive thinking could somehow bulldoze every obstacle. Today's journey may surprise you. We'll explore a secret that ancient mystics and many modern seekers overlook. Before creation, there must be union, and before union, the gentle but determined power of care. Let's begin with a challenge that feels nearly universal. Most of us possess vivid desires. We long for connection, recognition, abundance, or deeper meaning. Yet, despite our best efforts, our reality doesn't always match our dreams. What causes this stubborn gap between wishing and becoming? Hermetic philosophy suggests the answer lies not in force, but in balance, the balance of vital forces within ourselves. The principle of gender, described by the ancient Hermeticists, insists that all creation, on every plane, requires the interplay of masculine and feminine energies. This isn't just about male and female people, nor is it confined to biology or relationships. Instead, it's a cosmic dance, operating everywhere in thoughts, art, music, invention, and the subtle world of manifestation. The masculine, or seed principle, is vision, direction, purpose, the driving will to act. The feminine, or matrix principle, is imagination, receptivity, nurturing, and the creative field where potentials grow. Both exist in every person, regardless of gender. The masculine initiates, the feminine gestates and brings forth. One without the other is powerless. An idea unsupported by care lies dormant. All nurturing with no focus or intent becomes aimless drifting. The magic happens when you unite clear vision and sustained, heartfelt attention. Here lies the often missing ingredient: care. What you genuinely care for, care enough to tend, to revisit, to nurture lovingly over time, gathers energy and grows. This care is not the anxious grip of attachment or the flares of passing obsession. True care is a quiet but unwavering devotion, like a gardener who returns each day prepared to weed, water, and wait. The Hermetic texts explain that most people surrender their creative feminine principle, allowing others, society, media, family, or charismatic personalities to plant ideas in their minds that grow by default. Their energy is scattered, their dreams have formed, and so reality resembles a wild field full of random seeds. To consciously create, you must reclaim both your will, the masculine energy of purpose, and your power of care, the feminine energy of nurturing, bringing them into loving partnership within yourself. This union is echoed in the Hebrew Kabbalah's wisdom. Only when intention, emotion, and action align does one ascend to sovereignty and truly reign over their own kingdom. It's said that in the temple of the heart, where will and nurturing meet, spirit descends, the highest inspiration, and matter rises, intentions become real. This is the alchemy of becoming. Modern science, too, hints at this sacred balance. Dr. Joe Dispenza and other researchers into heart-brain coherence have shown that the union of thought and emotion, especially those inspired by genuine care, produces measurable changes in the body and can even shift external outcomes. The heart, acting as a generator, creates an electromagnetic field, amplifying intention. So, how can you harness this principle in your daily life? The first practice is clarity. What do you truly wish to create? Don't settle only for vague longing. Let your vision be specific, heartfelt, and aligned with your deepest self, not just passing trends or borrowed desires. Next, ask yourself, do I care enough about this intention to commit not just energy, but my patient, persistent attention, especially when doubt and discomfort arise? You don't need grand rituals or obsession, but small acts of care each day. Water your dream the way you'd water a young plant, with trust in its unseen growth, with celebration of each shoot breaking through the soil. Devote regular, gentle attention to your goal, even if it's just 5 minutes a day. Write, imagine, speak grateful words as if your desire already lives. Let actions, however modest, reflect your commitment. If discouragement or restlessness appears, don't scold yourself. Instead, ask, have I united my will and my care? Am I nurturing what I plant? Sometimes adjustment is needed. Less force, more patience. Less fantasy, more grounded steps. The universe, say the Hermeticists, responds not to noisy wishing, but to quiet, coherent passion, a heart and mind pulling together, empowered by the discipline of care. Tonight, reflect gently. What have I cared for, truly and consistently, in the past months or years? In what places did I neglect care, and what grew there instead? Where could you, starting now, combine clear intention and gentle, persistent tending? What one desire can you water daily, without desperate attachment, but with devotion and trust? As you move forward, remember, creation is not the work of the mind alone, nor the heart alone, but their loving union. You are both gardener and seed, sun and soil. What you lovingly attend to cannot this question for the coming days. If the care you offered became the climate of your reality, what kind of world will your heart and mind nourish next? What will you choose to tend, and how will you protect your most tender dreams each day? Are you ready to practice the union of vision and care and watch the world begin to blossom from within? Breaking the spell, Gnosis, awakening, and the return to unity. Have you felt a subtle sense of homesickness? The suspicion deep inside that something in modern life is out of focus? Maybe it visits you in moments of quiet or during late-night thoughts when routine fades and the world's noise dissolves. Could this discomfort be not a flaw, but a calling? A whisper from your own higher self urging you to remember your real origins? At the core of Hermetic philosophy and the world's esoteric traditions lies a remarkable idea. What you take to be ordinary reality, your struggles, ambitions, triumphs, disappointments, even your sense of identity, is a pocket of experience within a far vaster, interconnected field. The Gnostics, early seekers of divine knowledge, described human life as a kind of lucid dream, where each person is both awake and still caught in the play of illusion. Why does this matter? Because suffering often grows from believing we are alone, separate individuals, defined by our histories and wounds, pitted against a polled, impartial universe. Yet ancient wisdom, echoed in quantum thought and even the edges of neuroscience, says otherwise. What if you are not just a body in a chaotic world, but inseparable from the source of all being? What if your longing for meaning is the soul's memory of unity, gnosis, or direct knowing, not of the mind, but of the heart and spirit? Many traditions call this the fall into separation. From childhood, we're trained to see ourselves as unique, solitary, sometimes even broken. But as you look deeper, the story changes. Yes, your experiences and choices are distinct, but at the deepest layer, your consciousness is a spark of the infinite, a fractal of the all. Enlightenment in this view is not about gaining more. It's an awakening to what's always been true, a gentle returning. The main challenge, of course, is the veil. Modern culture distracts and fragments. News feeds, roles, endless tasks, worries about status or security. The mind becomes noisy and the pain of separation intensifies. But if you dare to pause, to truly gaze inward and question, who am I really? What endures beneath every thought, every feeling? You begin to loosen the spell. The Gnostics called this remembrance, recalling you are both here in the play and never truly apart from the source. What causes this amnesia? The Hermeticists would say it's the natural result of incarnation, of spirit diving into dense matter, of the infinite wearing a mask called me. Over lifetimes, the patterns of karma, heredity, and culture shape walls around our direct knowing. The paradox is that you are born into forgetfulness, so that the act of recovering your essence becomes the great adventure of life. But what emerges when you begin to remember? The emotions shift. Loneliness softens into compassion. Anxiety becomes curiosity. You discover moments of quiet joy for no reason. The world appears a little brighter, even though its challenges persist. You realize that the pain of others is, in some delicate way, your own. And so kindness, forgiveness, and service become not burdens, but natural gestures of unity. So, how do you take practical steps toward gnosis, toward spiritual awakening in a complex material world? It begins, always, with radical presence. Dedicate 5 minutes each morning to simply sitting in silence, observing your breathing, and letting go of roles, memories, or plans. Ask inwardly, what remains when I pause the story of me? If emotions or thoughts surface, notice them without judgment, like clouds drifting in an endless sky. Next, throughout your day, practice seeing yourself in others. When you feel anger or envy towards someone, pause and ask, where in myself does this emotion live? Could their struggle be a mirror or teacher? You're not erasing your individuality. You're discovering that everyone's story is part of a grand mosaic, each tile unique but inseparable from the whole. Modern research, from the study of mirror neurons to the effects of shared meditation, supports this mystery. Your brain seems wired not just for competition, but deep resonance with others. Acts of empathy and understanding don't drain you. They actually restore your sense of connection and inner peace. If you already sense this kinship, or if you only glimpse it in rare flashes, trust that these moments mark the beginning of gnosis. The longing for transcendence, often mistaken as escapism or naivete, is actually the soul's healthy hunger for genuine reality. And what about the hardships, loss, heartbreak, failure? In the Hermetic view, these are not punishments, but invitations. Each challenge cracks the shell of isolation, urging you to find deeper ground. The true awakening is not the denial of pain, but the loving awareness that pain and joy are colors in a single spiritual art. So, as you settle in tonight, ask yourself, where in my life have I been living in forgetfulness? In which moments do I sense the unity behind the play? Notice the small ways you can honor your deepest nature, through a kind word, a forgiving thought, or simply the willingness to sit in the mystery, awake and at peace. There's more to uncover. Dimensions beyond the five senses, the role of intention and consciousness in what we call synchronicity, and the paradox of seeking when, in truth, you are already home. But for now, take this as encouragement. Every effort to remember, every pause for love or wonder, strengthens the ancient thread of unity in the present moment. If you could release the illusion of being separate, even for a breath, what would your life feel like? And if the world itself woke up to unity, how might human destiny change? Beyond the veil, higher dimensions and the expansion of perception. Have you ever sensed that reality is vaster than what your eyes reveal? Maybe it's a fleeting intuition, a dream that lingers with the taste of another world, a déjà vu moment that cracks ordinary experience, or a hunch so vivid you know you're being touched by something more. Do you wonder if there are layers to existence, higher dimensions, humming beneath the surface of what you call real life? Ancient wisdom has always spoken of realms beyond the purely physical. Hermeticism, with its roots in Egypt, Greece, and faraway mystery schools, teaches that visible reality is but a shadow, a slowed-down echo of more refined, luminous realms all interpenetrating this one. The physical world is a single octave. The true music of the cosmos plays through countless octaves, most of them vibrating too fast, too subtle, or too immense for the five senses to register. Modern science is starting to hum the same melody, if only tentatively. Physicists propose dimensions wrapped within and around ours, possibilities hinted at through string theory, quantum entanglement, and the deepening paradoxes of space-time. Neuroscientists have spotted brain activity that suggests layers of perception and memory not fully explainable by our ordinary model of mind. But the true transformation lies not in speculation, but in experience. Most of us live as if we're listening to a grand symphony through a tiny speaker, catching only a thin slice of the full composition. The deeper challenge and the invitation is to open inner channels, to expand perception beyond inherited limits, and to taste the more that calls from just beyond the familiar. So, what keeps us tethered to a single layer? Partly, it's habit. Generations of thinking we are separate bodies, navigating a fixed, inert world. Our education, media, and social conditioning press us to trust only what's repeatable and visible, to fear the ambiguous. Yet subtle experiences constantly break through. Synchronicities, prophetic dreams, moments of deep knowing, or meetings that change the course of life in a flash. Esoteric traditions teach that awakening to higher dimensions is not about escaping the world, but perceiving it more fully. As the Kabbalist or Hermetist sees it, the physical plane is one leaf on the tree of life. Most of existence blossoms on higher branches, visible to the inner eye and the awakened heart. Practically, what does it mean to access these higher planes? It begins with attention and intention. The door to expanded consciousness is opened through meditation, focused breath, moments of stillness or beauty that stop you in your tracks. When you turn your gaze inward and rest in awareness itself without expectation or force, you begin to sense subtle information, the moods of a room, the silent language behind words, the gentle nudging of intuition. You may also discover thin places, as the Celtic sages called them, moments or locations where the boundaries between dimensions are especially porous. Sometimes it's during prayer, music, grief, or awe, sometimes while walking quietly in nature. These openings remind you that reality is much more than visible facts. It is fluid, interconnected, quietly miraculous. The challenge is to integrate these glimpses with your everyday living, not to become lost in fantasy, but to root your spiritual senses in discernment and courage. Ancients warned against using new perceptions for ego gain, for the true gifts of higher consciousness are humility, compassion, and creative power that serves the whole. If you wish to begin developing multidimensional awareness, start by shifting your daily focus. When you meet someone, listen for what is not said. Feel the resonance or dissonance that lives beneath their words. In decision-making, invite your heart and body to participate. Let intuition have a voice alongside logic. Before sleep, pose a gentle question about your life or purpose. Then keep a journal for symbols and insights risen from dreams. Research, too, has begun to validate these practices. Studies on long-term meditators show strengthened neural networks for empathy and perception. Random number generator experiments across the globe have registered shifts in chaos and order, mysteriously synchronizing during collective moments of emotion or intention, as if human consciousness really does ripple out into the wider field. As you open to higher dimensions, paradoxes multiply. Time bends. You may glimpse patterns that predict the future or experience healing that seems to bypass normal cause. Don't be alarmed. These phenomena are ancient, part of the hidden curriculum of life. Approach them with reverence and steady curiosity, not the hunger for escape or control. Above all, remember, the goal is not to flee the earth, but to bring the wisdom of higher realms down into your daily living. The Hermetic axiom rings true: as above, so below. The more you awaken to higher consciousness, the more loving, skillful, and creative you become here and now. Miracles, perhaps, are simply moments when another dimension touches this one, and ordinary life is made radiant. Tonight, I invite you to seek one small way to honor the greater dimension. Light a candle before rest. Offer gratitude for a synchronicity. Sit in silent wonder. Know that every genuine moment of presence is a passageway. Every act of kindness, a signal across the invisible worlds. So ask yourself, what dimensions of reality might you sense, learn from, and serve if you dared to open beyond the five senses? How would your life change if you trusted, just a little, that the veil is thin, and love and meaning are the true ground behind it all? Are you ready for the final part, where we'll gather and honor the journey, transmuting knowledge into true wisdom and discovering how to walk awake in a world still half asleep? Living the great work, integration, service, and the everyday alchemy of life. So here we are, after walking through the mysteries of vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, the alchemy of inner gender, unity, and the silent worlds beyond the senses, perhaps the biggest question now is, how does any of this change your next ordinary day? How does Hermetic knowledge, mystical awakening, or quantum possibility show up, not in a book or even this video, but in the way you live, love, and serve right now? The ancient teachers spoke often of the great work, not merely as some distant spiritual goal, but as the patient integration of all planes, the mind, the heart, the body, and the world. The purpose was not escape, but embodiment. The test of every insight is life itself. Can you walk awake in a world that still dreams, practicing what you know at your core, gently but steadfastly? Let's face the challenge honestly. Daily life can feel overwhelming. Bills arrive, schedules tighten, misunderstandings sting, the news unspools tragedy after tragedy. It's easy for all these high ideals to seem irrelevant, even naive. But the Hermetic path is not about denying pain or pretending away difficulty. Instead, it meets the world as it is, bringing the candle of awareness, the tools of presence and transmutation, and an unyielding commitment to grow. What are the causes, inside and out, that threaten to scatter you? Usually, it's not the event itself, but your old reactions, stories, and habits set in motion by the past. The shadow resists change, whispering that you're powerless, too small to matter. Yet, as every wisdom tradition gently insists, illumination does not mean never stumbling. It means stumbling less often, rising more quickly, and seeing even setbacks as raw material for transformation. Feel what you feel, but step back and watch. Can you, for a moment, interrupt the old drama and remember, this too is thought. This too is vibration. What if I choose to shift even slightly? In the heat of a challenge, pause, take a breath, and remember one of the great Hermetic truths: the higher governs the lower. From the perch of your observer's mind, the body can be soothed, the heart can be steadied, and a wiser course. The more you try to force others, or the world, the less power you seem to have. But the more you become calm, coherent, and creative within, the more your influence quietly ripples outward, transforming not only your experience, but sometimes, astonishingly, the very shape of events around you. Even subtle acts, a kind word, presence that listens without agenda, a choice to forgive or give, become the seeds of what the Kabbalah names tikkun, the slow repair of self and world through everyday moments. Practical steps, then, often look humbler than expected. When you wake, set an intention. May I bring coherence and kindness to each encounter today. Check in with your heart and body before acting. Does this decision arise from fear or from clarity and care? Practice mental alchemy on small irritations first, shifting from impatience to curiosity. Notice when polarization arises, inside or out, and play gently with seeing the opposite pole, even if only for a moment. Don't forget the power of the pause. Short intervals of silence, gratitude, or simple observation strengthen your connection to higher planes, even as life swirls around you. Meditate for 5 minutes. Walk in nature. Create something with words, hands, or service. These small rites anchor you in the current of mystery, making room for synchronicity and guidance. Remember, no one walks this path alone. As you become more awake, the world calls for your unique service. The Hermetic masters taught that knowledge is only fulfilled when given away, when it uplifts not just the seeker, but the whole of humanity. True wisdom overflows naturally through teaching, art, healing, or simply living with more patience and joy. Each of us, practicing with sincerity, becomes a node in the living web, sending out vibrations that help awaken the sleeping world. Modern science hints at this too. Compassion, gratitude, and coherent intention measurably influence heart rhythms, immune health, even collective fields in surprising experiments. The observer effect is not some abstract theory, but an invitation. Your way of being now participates in the reality to come. And so, as you end this chapter and step forward, remember, the Hermetic journey is not a ladder to climb or a test to pass. It is a dance, sometimes graceful, often messy, of showing up again and again with humility, attention, and the willingness to care more deeply. The point is neither retreat from the world nor rigid asceticism, but accepting the full paradox. You are both uniquely you with all your aims and flaws, and part of the infinite, sparkling in every point of view and experience. Tonight, Ask yourself a gentle but vital question. What will you do tomorrow with what you now see? How might you savor the ordinary, help another soul, or meet a challenge as an alchemist would, with honesty, curiosity, and the hidden certainty that everything, even suffering, can be used for awakening? The great work is already in your hands. The next step does not require more knowledge, but a tiny act of courage woven into your day. The world needs what you alone can bring. Will you answer the call? Not just to know, but to live this wisdom, moment by fleeting, precious moment? Thank you for walking this path. You carry the spark of the all. Go and live as both creator and caretaker, magician and friend, in the miracle of now.